Thank you so much, Sunny. And thank you, Felix, for the new mic. So it's a great pleasure to be here. And it's a great pleasure to see so many people who I've been able to meet in the short time that I've been with MassBioEd and learned about the amazing work that's happening in the life science industry. We all know how amazing it is in general, but it's until you start getting the details that you really get to know. We are very fortunate, as Sunny mentioned, to have several experts today to help guide us through the challenges that I think we're all aware of, but it's good to learn some of the details and to really understand what type of persistence it's going to take to overcome them, and particularly what type of collaboration. Today, I'm going to present some highlights of the 2022 Massachusetts Life Sciences Employment Outlook. And once again, we collaborated with Techonomy, a fantastic firm that knows this industry inside and out, listened and learned along with us to analyze the data. I do want to, before I get started, give a special thanks to my colleague, Carla Talanian, who many of you know, and many of you have had the pleasure of working with. Without question, could not be doing this without her. And you're going to be hearing from her a little bit later in the day about some of the work that she is doing and that we are doing. Today, I'd like to cover the big picture. First of all, redefining the life science sector employment in Massachusetts, emphasis on the re, and then talks a bit about the hiring demands, trends, and comparisons. Then we're going to break it up a bit, and we're going to listen to our first set of speakers, and we'll be super excited to hear from them about similar topics, both from a government and academic and a industry point of view of tackling and types of success in life sciences. Then we'll come back and talk about the talent solutions later on after the networking break. And we'll see how fast people are able to transition down to the annex. It's a wonderful building, and you're going to get a chance to see what the students experience every day here at Framingham State. First of all, the life science industry concept has been updated in our outlook this year. Historically, MassBioEd has focused on biopharma, and with good reason. That's our history. That's where we've come from. And obviously, it is a very large part of the fantastic life science industry in Massachusetts. We do believe at expanding the definition to include medical device production and equipment, the research and development that happens in our hospitals and our colleges is a great way to really educate everyone, educators, students, their families, as to just how big the opportunities are in life sciences and how important life sciences is to our economy. The expanded definition demonstrates that the sector is an even greater driver of our economy and frankly shows no signs of stopping. And so here we have a graph, which forgive me for the numbers being a little bit small, from 2010 all the way to 2021, the increase in employment has just been extensive. And the green section shows us the share of biopharma, which does tend to dominate the numbers in the industry. But we also have a very robust medical device and equipment maker sector, as well as the hospital and college universities, which are obviously the underpinnings, the foundation of the work of the entire industry. Over the last decade, Mass life science industry has grown its employment base by 50% to exceed 121,000 jobs. And as I think everyone here knows, these are great jobs. And it's just a fantastic bedrock institution that is supporting and driving the Massachusetts economy forward. I do want to congratulate many of you here who have had a lot to do with bringing this industry and this sector to where it is today. It's worthy of, it's very impressive. Just to review quickly again, the breakout of biopharma, 86,000 plus jobs, medical devices, about 23,000 jobs. Our hospitals and colleges, the research end of things, coming in at 88,000 and 3,700 respectively. Many of you may be familiar with the idea of a location quotient. I will confess, about a year ago, I didn't know what a location quotient is, but it's a fantastic number that really captures the intensity and the influence of the life sciences in our state. A location quotient of 1 is even, and that means that that a industry is as centered in a state as much as it is in the entire country. Anything above 1.2 means that there's a specialization there. And then looking clearly at the big number there, when you're at 3.4, clearly that is a major, major statement of the concentration of the industry compared to the rest of the economy of Massachusetts, and really leads the way. It incredibly leads the way for the country. In addition, for medical devices, a location quotient of 2.5 is also extremely impressive and just demonstrates the amazing work that's happening here in that area. We also have, as many know, a very resilient sector. It has, in the last 3 years, even during the pandemic, continued to be an amazing economic engine for Massachusetts. It grew its employment base by 5.4%, while the state's entire private sector lost 6.5% of its employment base. That's almost a 12% performance differential from the last 3 years. This graph demonstrates the prospects of a new graduate in life sciences may have when coming out of school. Whether it's a PhD student or a graduate from one of our fantastic community colleges. When we look at the private sector, and now I'm testing out my tech. When we look at the private sector, Massachusetts lost 7% of its employment base over this time period. The total life sciences, on the other hand, gained significantly. In both cases, the swing was greater for the green area, which is the state of Massachusetts, versus the entire country. Life sciences, biopharma, clearly led the way. 20% gain in employment from 2018 to 2021. Medical devices had a modest increase, but given COVID, that's impressive nonetheless. In these difficult times, our clinical research in hospitals and in colleges and universities had a very difficult time. And while we're hoping that's going to change, we hope it'll change soon, that has been a challenge. And I think it's a great story to communicate to our students, whether they're in high school, undergrads, or PhDs, of how important it is to learn about careers in our industry and how important the links are between our higher education institutions, our government, and our industry, and the great work that students can perform there. Mass life science employment continues to be dominated by high-skilled workers. Again, not frankly a new point. As indicated by the 76% in the top graph for the state of Massachusetts, 76% share of the workforce made up particularly of scientists and managers. The US has, on the other hand, the entire country has a much higher percentage of middle skill workers, technicians, production workers. However, that's largely due to the larger share of production activity happening in the rest of the United States. As production activity is ramping up in Massachusetts, we definitely see this changing. That Massachusetts will have a higher share of middle skill workers, and that is something we hope to talk quite a bit about today. It's really important, and I think, again, well understood. However, it's important to emphasize. We have comparative talent advantages here like no others. We have best in world higher education institutions as a group. And for this sector, I don't think you can emphasize that enough. We have best-in-world teaching hospitals connected to those higher education institutions as well as to the industry. And of great importance, we have strong public support for education of Massachusetts public school students in general, and specifically through the Massachusetts Life Science Initiative, which I'd like to encourage everybody to assist and support and advocate for a renewal of that support as we move forward. Massachusetts is the leading global hub for life sciences, research, development, and innovation. And frankly, we'd like to keep it that way. We want to keep the rising tide raising all ships here and around the country and around the world. And with the innovation that we have in such strength in Massachusetts, we can continue that. One specific area that has been growing dramatically in recent years has been management occupations in life sciences. And I suspect this is not going to come as news to most of the people in the audience. We've needed to grow, and our industry has become more mature with more professionals in finance, marketing, scientific leadership, data science, information technology. They have experienced more than a 35% growth in these sectors in the last 3 years. And I think that is a good point, as we call them, secondary careers in the sector, is a good point for us to think about as we move forward into the rest of the day and talk about how we can raise career awareness, not only among our STEM students, not only among our biology students and our biotech students, but among students in other fields as to what are the advantages and what is the power that can come with joining the life science industry. Just another example of, as the industry growing, as talent demands increasingly overlap with tech for IT, data sciences, and such, as I mentioned. To show the share, the green is what we all know. It's our life sciences. Down below, looking at the light blue, we see a dramatic increase between 2010 and 2021 of the number of management positions in our companies. And I'd say that in most cases, people would say it probably hasn't happened fast enough because I think those people are all extremely busy. In addition, we know that the real estate pipeline is booming in Massachusetts for life sciences. And thanks to our partners at JLL, we can report that a full pipeline of 29.3 million square feet of R&D space is going through the system. And particularly 14.5 million square feet is underway. It's happening. And as far as manufacturing, GMP facilities, 2.9 million in the full pipeline with an impressive 2.5 million already underway. This shows that it's not stopping, and we need to make sure that we can find the workforce. As Chris said, it's all about people, to make sure we can fill these spaces. Particularly, not only in the center of things in Cambridge and Boston, and we will continue certainly to be working hard there, but around the state and seeing the different locations, and I think more to come, where particularly for expanding our production activities. Life science job postings. We know how hard it is to hire now. It's just, we've all felt the pain, myself included. And but suffice to say that here in Massachusetts, we're working really hard to hire, and we have a higher share of job postings significantly than the rest of the country, which is also working very hard to hire. So it just shows that there is an incredible demand for talent, and there's no one simple answer. But it's important that we look for both short-term answers, and we will absolutely be talking about those today, as well as the long-term answers of making sure that we have that pipeline of students in our schools who are pursuing STEM, who are then understanding the career opportunities, and maybe their parents are understanding the career opportunities that they could have as well as their students could have. So we'll hear a lot more about a career awareness campaign to come. To sum up some of the gaps, these numbers measure the number of anticipated job openings in the life science industry in the coming 5 years compared to the amount of talent coming from Massachusetts schools. And when you compare these two numbers, we have a deficit of 7,000 positions for life sciences over the next 5 years, and a deficit of 4,300 technicians over the next 5 years. And these numbers, I think, are strong. Frankly, they may be a little bit under, particularly on the production side, but they just show that we have a lot of work to do to find the talent that we can, to work these jobs and to retain that talent. So a couple of take-home messages. The life science industry is a vital and still growing part of the Massachusetts economy. Its products make people healthier and improve quality of life for patients and families. I think this is a message that we could do a better job of sharing. The industry has an outsized effect on the overall health and vitality of the Massachusetts economy. And its industries and partners must take extraordinary measures in order to really get at this persistent gap of our workforce. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite to the stage, well, actually, forgive me. I almost skipped up over Q&A. So I'd like to invite anybody who has a question to please come up, or a comment. Anybody? We have some mics around the room available to come in, so that if you have a question, you can have a moment to think about it, and just put your hand up and our staff will come, and they've got oh, here we go. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Turgeon. I'm with the MassHire Central Region Workforce Board. Excited to be here today. On one of the slides you had mentioned about the breakout of high skill, middle skill, and entry level. Just wondering what the definition of, like, is that an advanced degree? Is that bachelor's and above? And just kind of how the breakout of the education levels to those jobs.
Thanks for that question, and thanks for coming today. And it's excellent that we have some great representatives of our MassHire system and our government workforce system who are coming to join us today. And I'm really excited, and I hope that we can have more connections between industry, academia, and government today. So the high skills are at least a college degree, if not higher. We're talking, and obviously going up to the PhD. Middle skill workers do not require necessarily a 4-year degree. It could be a 2-year degree. It could be a certificate. It could be a badge, something of that nature. And low skilled workers traditionally is defined as someone who does not have a high school degree. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Yes. Corinne is coming with a mic. Thank you.
Hi, Christian Torstensen with Sanofi. I'm responsible for GMP education here in Framingham at our specialty care facility. One of your graphs spoke about the growth in the life sciences in the positive, but then at the university and the research level dropping down. Any anecdotal explanation for that difference? Is it awareness? Is it chasing the money? Is it, what's causing that?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna say that if anybody in the room has a better answer for that than I would, because I think we have some really good experts in the room about funding for higher education and for in research and development. And I also might defer to my colleague who's going to be coming up in a minute, if Professor Modestino might even have something to say about that. But I will say that it's a very difficult world, I can say anecdotally, in higher ed. And in order to find funding for research and to make sure you're continually funding, and to find funding to grow your lab, to grow your facilities, it can be really difficult. Whereas in the industry has clearly shown this amazing experience and success in a commercial model, which they're able to generate that income and as such to grow. But I will defer to others to perhaps give it any more to that. Other questions? Okay.